Jessica, the Times of Israel is promoting cultural events. You actually have a few cultural events, film events,
Yes, several
Time-
events.
timed coming out right after the Oscars. Tell us about what's the first one.
Great. So our first event was the play The City, which happened about 10 days ago, which is a local kind of Hamilton before there was Hamilton. That was very well received. And now we have Ephraim Halevi
That was
tonight.
a Hebrew rap
spoken word rap,
translated into English.
translated into English, which they had done at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. A lot of controversy around that, and then they do it in English occasionally, and they did it for us in English, and it was really a very big success. It's a fabulous play. You have to go several times in order to really catch every word. I've seen it 4 times in Hebrew, and now in English. So the screenings that we're doing, the first one is this Thursday night with Elite Zexer, who is the first-time director of her first feature film called Sandstorm, which is a Bedouin family drama, and pretty much the first Israeli-made film about a Bedouin feature film, and it's an interesting backstory. Elite's mother, who is a scientist, is a photographer, just an amateur photographer, and ended up going down to the Negev and taking a lot of pictures in Bedouin villages, in unrecognized Bedouin villages, and becoming a wedding photographer. And Bedouin weddings are major events. They can be multi-day events, multi-week events. And she got to know a lot of families, and they would hire her to be their photographer, this Israeli Jewish woman from the center. And Elite, her daughter, would come with her. And she has her own story of how she came to filmmaking, but basically fell in love with the art and with the industry, and had lived in LA for a few years and came back and said, you know what, I'm going to make a movie, a Bedouin family drama.
So the idea is you have a film and you have the director or some people involved in the film that come and speak to the
Right,
audience.
so the idea, this is our first screening that we're doing as one of the Times of Israel cultural events. We'll have the screening of the film with its English subtitles, because you don't always get to see these films that have English subtitles in Israeli movie theaters. So we'll see the film, and then we'll have a conversation with Elite Zexer afterwards, who speaks English very, very well, and we'll talk about the process of making the film, the people in the film who are not professional actors, what's it like delving into a very, very different culture, family, and the film itself is wonderful. So it should be a great event, and that's this Thursday.
And what is going to be the next film that's also scheduled, a Joseph Cedar film?
Yes, Joseph Cedar, who is a Jerusalemite, although he's been living in Tel Aviv for many years, and has won many awards for his last film, Footnote. This is called Norman. It was also known as the Oppenheimer Strategies for a couple of years, and it stars Richard Gere, which is very exciting.
Is he coming?
I don't believe he's coming to this screening, but I'm sure we'll get to see him on these shores very soon. And the movie takes place partially in Jerusalem. It's more of a political drama with a lot of tensions that mirror things that happen in our world today.
Is
our
Bibi characterized in the film?
Possibly. And for Richard Gere, I think it was actually a really great role for him, something very different. And he and Joseph Cedar seem to have really struck a particular kind of friendship in the course of making the film. And we've caught glimpses of Richard Gere in Jerusalem over the last few years as they've been working on the film. So that will also be a screening of the film and then a conversation with Joseph Cedar afterwards.
So a new cultural outlet here in Jerusalem, sponsored by the Times of Israel. How do people get tickets? Right here on the Times of Israel website?
Yeah, you can go to our Facebook page. You can just go into Facebook and go into that search bar and type, Times of Israel English events or Times of Israel screenings. It'll pop up very, very easily. There's been a lot of emails that have been sent out. We have some great events coming up.
And where are the events taking place?
Well, obviously, we're going to have some screenings at the Cinematheque. This first one with Sandstorm and Elite Zexer is at the Cinematheque on this Thursday evening. The next screening with Joseph Cedar is taking place at Cinema City, sort of another major movie theater in Jerusalem, right near the Foreign Ministry. We are also going to have some events outside of Jerusalem because we've had so much demand and requests for these kinds of English-speaking events. We're going to have an interview with David Grossman about his latest book, which was just translated into English. A Horse Walks into a Bar. It's a very intense book that's sort of a one-take book. It all takes place in a bar in Netanya with a stand-up comedian who's working through some issues of his life. And as I said, other events taking place outside Jerusalem, and really we're seeing a great response to it. So get your tickets before they sell out.
All right, Times of Israel, a new way to experience culture.
In English.
In English, here in Israel, starting in Jerusalem, and it will be in other locations. You can get your tickets right here on the Times of Israel website.
Absolutely, and Facebook page.
Jessica Steinberg, thanks so much for being with us at ILTV.
Thanks, Steve.